Having not filmed anything interior related since last December, thought it was probably about time I did. And with the cabin of my parents' HRV having recently been used and abused by the holiday nieces and nephews, thought that'd be just the ticket. So stay tuned for a healthy dose of vacuuming plus some dedicated floor mat, leather and plastic cleaning. So while this 8-year-old interior is generally kept quite clean, which is why I haven't featured it before, it was looking considerably grubbier than normal here following a week's worth of staycationing, and that plus the fact I had a few complimentary products I needed to get to grips with meant it was full steam ahead.
So high I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through.
Now, as with most of my interior cleans, tedious vacuuming would likely represent the bulk of the work here. But before I could get going with that, pulled the floor mats out and plonked them to one side, as I planned to treat them separately from the cheap carpeting in the cabin. Removed any loose bits of rubbish, of which there was a fair few handfuls, to save me from repeatedly having to unclog the vacuum, dropping it all into a makeshift bucket bin so it could be quickly disposed of later. And as I'd be working from back to front, starting with the boot, emptied that of a few big bags, a crusty curtain liner and my old lad's holiday dinghy, which despite having seen it all, still apparently soaks up the swell, a treat. Two different machines were on the suction menu here, a mains operated Numatic Henry for the bulk of the heavy lifting and a cordless Vax Blade 4 whose spinning brush head I like to use for lightly agitating things over. So got to work doing just that to initially tease out and suck up as much Angelsonian sand from the boot as possible. Although with the inferior fibres this compartment is unfortunately clad with, it wasn't going to be a particularly speedy process. So settled in as best I could for the long haul. After the more open areas had been vaxed over in cordless fashion, Mini Henry, who still has more than enough puff for most jobs, was then deployed in conjunction with a traditional crevice tool to suck up any stray sand from the sides and edges of the boot, which is a more precise and effective approach but also more impactful and laborious. So you need to weigh up what works for you and the car, but I decided to crack on with the crevice tool here. And sometimes it just makes sense to get right on in there to tackle things in an up close and personal manner, progressively working your way inside out until you feel you've got things looking as good as they realistically can, which took me a mere 40 minutes to do in the stonking late summer sun here. Crap quality carpeting and a car's boot is one thing, but manufacturers kitting out an entire cabin with the stuff is enough to make a cynical car cleaner like myself think there might just be some sort of money saving conspiracy at play. Now, thankfully, despite being prematurely worn in a few places, this particular HRV stuff wasn't yet past the point of no return, so with some sweaty persistence managed to get it to a point I considered acceptable. But if you're not a professional crevice toolsman like myself with years worth of detailing dexterity and fast twitch muscle memory to put to use, then good luck, because once they get to a certain point you've basically got no chance. So once the naff carpeting had been thoroughly tended to, which took a lot longer than the few minutes worth of included clips here likely suggest, moved on to vacuuming off all of the other interior surfaces from the leather seats to the plastic trim, with a soft brush attachment which I don't often see being put to use on YouTube, but for me is an essential tool for safely ridding the nooks, crannies and creases of a car's interior of sand, dirt and belly button fluff. But I did also brush a few of the tighter details over with a super soft detail brush too. And while it obviously pays to be as thorough as you realistically can, I would be quickly vacuuming everything off again later, so if there was still a few spits and spots knocking about at this preliminary stage, then no big deal. So it was then onto the floor mats, which I decided to tend to round the back where it was comparatively cool. Again, first sucking up the bulk of the loose sand and dirt with the cordless vacs, which it did far more effectively here than in the car because this material actually had a bit of open pile to it, which makes any kind of cleaning so much more straightforward. Then once I'd spent a few minutes doing that across all four mats, grabbed Turtle Wax's Oxy Action enriched spot cleaner to go on to treat them to a bit more of a dedicated clean. So the original plan was to treat 2 of the mats with this product and 2 with the Halfords carpet and upholstery cleaner I showed at the start, but for various reasons completely forgot I had that and ended up cleaning them all with this instead, which wasn't a bad thing as it worked well, but just meant I'd have to put the Halfords stuff to use some other time. Now, while this foam-based product is intended for more concentrated cleaning of stains and spillages, I went ahead and applied it to all areas of the mats here as there wasn't really any isolated stains. Then, after being left to soak for a minute, thoroughly worked it in with a stiff brush, which again isn't really how it's intended to be used, but figured this approach should still serve to leave the mats with a nice, uniformly revived finish. After being soaked and agitated, the mats were then thoroughly worked over with a microfibre towel, which Turtle Wax does actually recommend you do, to both blot up any freshly dislodged dirt and excess foam. Then, once the towel became suitably discoloured, went ahead and re-vacuumed them off, this time with Henry and the Crevice tool, to remove any remaining residue and stray sand particles that the physical agitation had released, of which there was a fair few. And again, while Crevice tooling might not be the quickest approach, it's definitely the most precise. So if you're not doing a dedicated wet vac, think the least you can do is give your forearms a good workout with one until your mats are looking fresh and dirt particle free. And if you're working on the ground like I was here, then don't forget to give their underside a quick vac before replacing them to prevent transfer from the dirty ground to the freshly vacuumed footwells. So with that little lot having taken me a good chunk of the day to complete, took a quick break before tackling the rest of the interior. And I don't know about you, but light-hearted entertainment is always the name of the game for me. And what better way to put my feet up here than with the highly popular Gaminator app, which is designed to both look and feel just like the legendary Gaminator slot machines. With a huge choice of over 200 slot games to choose from, including Sizzling Hot Deluxe, Gates of Olympus and Big Bass Bonanza, which with its free game-winning scatterfish symbols and chilled marine-themed music is my personal favourite. So long as you have your phone upon your person, you can enjoyably spin to win big jackpots. as well as special shop and social media awards with virtual currency pretty much anywhere, anytime. As well as the usual slot style, the app also boasts slot battles and escapes, team missions to play with friends, and a progressive level up system that allows you to unlock even more slots plus bigger, better bonuses. And if you sign up for free today, you'll receive a considerable welcome bounty of up to 70,000 complimentary coins, which, take it from me, will almost certainly get you off to a flying start. So check it out via the link in the description and pinned comment below. And who knows, maybe I'll see you in the social slotosphere sometime soon. So with break time over, it was then time to tend to the other interior surfaces, starting with some Dodo Juice Pimp My Hide on the leather, which was both sprayed directly onto it as well as into the bristles of a corresponding hairy palm brush, just to try and get a few different application shots. Now, while most of this leather likely could have got away with just being thoroughly wiped down with a towel, went ahead and agitated the majority of it over with the brush first here, as I doubt it had been treated to a dedicated hands-on clean like this for a fair few years, so made sense in my mind to strip it back of any non-visible grease and grime. With the passenger seat back being the grubbiest section of leather, made sure all parts of that saw a good going over with the product, working it into the grain every which way before thoroughly wiping it down with a specific towel that I wouldn't be using on any other part so as not to cross-contaminate them. And while I'm not entirely sure whether this was genuine leather or leather like vinyl I was working with, Pimp My Hide is formulated for safe use on both, so from a cleaning perspective, as long as all the residue was removed afterwards, it didn't really matter. While it's easy to get fixated on the seats when it comes to leather cleaning, most modern cars will have leather scattered throughout the interior, so you need to be aware of what else might need cleaning in the same manner, which on this particular car was the top half of the door cards, the top section of the centre console, a panel around the dash vents, and of course the leather clad controls, all of which can be easily overlooked but still ideally need properly cleaning. I finished up the leather cleaning with the semi-shiny steering wheel, thoroughly working some of the Pimp My Hide over it with the brush, which was arguably a bit too big, but still seemed to do the job of releasing the months if not years worth of ingrained hand sweat just fine. And the fact it's a straightforward cleaner that doesn't aim to condition, enhance or protect means that it'll leave leather with a matte, factory looking and feeling finish, which is exactly what you want for a steering wheel. And while cleaning them can be a bit of a faff, being such a tactile part, a fresh one will help to effectively convey that well kept inner sanctum sensation. So next up was the plastics and trim, for which I had Halfords' new interior quick detailer, and having already put it to use on my own car off camera, knew it was more of what I class as a water-based dressing rather than a quick detailer. Now that being said, giving the interior trim of an 8-year-old daily driven family crossover a dedicated dress isn't necessarily a bad thing, so I was happy to crack on with the product here, thoroughly working it over most of the hard surfaces. Although being what it is, you'll want to be careful with direct application around any previously clean parts if you don't want to leave them freshly contaminated with shiny speckles and smears. While it was essentially just a straightforward case of colouring in any interior surfaces that hadn't yet been cleaned or treated to help frame those that had, I did use a small detail brush to work it into a few of the parts that a towel on its own might struggle to access. And while dressing the dark interior trim of a modern car that's already in relatively decent condition might not be everyone's cup of tea, I still think these particular surfaces looked a lot better for it afterwards. Plus, the scent the product left behind helped to simultaneously give the interior an aromatic lift without the need for any dedicated air freshening products. To conclude the interior clean, I treated the inside of the glass to some of the super slick Soft 99 Glaco cleaner and repellent I'd used on the exterior of my Honda's glass recently to brighten things up and ensure there was no juvenile sneeze, splatter and snot smears. So thoroughly worked it over the windows with a basic lint-free cleaning cloth before buffing off with a fresh general purpose towel to remove any residue. But it seems despite being protectant and rich, this cleaner only leaves pure slickness behind, which was exactly what was needed here, as grippy glass cleaning in the scorching sun is never pleasant. So would highly recommend giving this particular product a go, whether on the inside of your glass or out. Once the glass had been sufficiently sterilised and slickened up, spent a few final minutes ensuring that all of the screens, fascias and shiny bits of the cabin were also wiped down with the Glaco stuff, as there's no point getting everything else ship-shape only to leave these surfaces smeared and cross-contaminated. So just use the more plush side of a brand new general purpose towel to thoroughly strip them back of anything either I'd left myself here or that other family members had previously besmirched them with, which was quite a relaxed and satisfying affair compared to the previous stages. Then, aside from one last quick vac to remove any freshly dislodged dirt, lint and airborne floaters from the other freshly cleaned surfaces, which I just didn't have the energy to try and film at this point, left it at that. So aside from the odd routine scuff or spot of deeply ingrained dirt that I didn't really want to inflict unnecessary wear obsessively chasing, reckon the HRV's 8-year-old cabin now probably looked the best it had done since being new. As honestly, who else is going to spend 4 tedious hours in the stonking summer sun meticulously vacuuming economy carpets, then 4 more scrubbing and enhancing the other surfaces for the sake of a YouTube video? But me? Now, if you're wondering why some of the shots here might not have looked quite as profesh as usual, that's because aside from the POV stuff, it was all recorded on my phone, as despite promising you in the last upload that I'd be back with my working video camera, I'm still having trouble trying to get that sorted. But modern smartphones are pretty capable, so this little rig will have to do for now. But either way, I appreciate you sticking with it, and to ensure nothing I captured here goes to waste, we'll bid you a fond farewell with a quick parting aftershock montage.
Dangerous times don't fly too high. Be sure to keep the ground in sight. Fly forever if you keep it tight. Love the world, but keep the sky on your mind.